I'm reading, hearing, and experiencing all kinds of references to thinking versus knowing lately, and I believe it's a really good topic to address. We spoke last week about how all our woes come down to our habitual, problematic thoughts. Well, this is coming at thinking from a little different angle and focus and gives another helpful perspective, I think. The other day, our book study grouplet, Ginny, Shirley, and I, were reading from the Book of Truth by Paul Selig's guides. The guides were talking about how the time for relying on thinking is over and the time of knowing is here. Shirley asked for a clarification and we discussed a few ideas. Just a few minutes later, she noted how come she had a hard time accepting what some teachers profess, but she believes everything that Cryon says with no hesitation. That is her knowing. She bypassed her thinking mind and went to the feeling/heart/resonant knowing. Last week, we also spoke of resonance shaping our reality by resonating with a particular consciousness level or vibration level. When we resonate with something, we effortlessly relate to that music or person or food, book, event. We don't analyze or think about the pros and cons. We have a knowing, a magnetic attraction. Ginny just told me about a charming and delightful and unusual novel called Perestroika in Paris. I knew I had to read it, and I loved it. Didn't have to think, I knew. It struck me recently that multiple authors I'd listened to or read, including 2 reluctant psychic medium types, a researcher gathering data from mediums, a researcher of children's past life memories, and 2 doctors who had near-death experiences, stressed emphatically and repeatedly that they were very skeptical about believing what they were hearing and receiving and feeling. If it were me having those experiences and writing books about them, perhaps I'd also stress that I had been skeptical just to try to establish a common thread with mainstream readers who have no such experience or background or beliefs, and you want them to know you're just as sane as they are. If those authors truly were skeptical, though, weren't they denying their own experience/knowing in favor of being sidetracked, at least temporarily, by justifying and reconciling what they were perceiving through thinking? They were putting up a great deal of resistance to their own knowing. Now, to me, who has always been very interested in and drawn to communication with spirits, past life regressions, and near-death experiences since I first learned of them, I had no problem believing those stories related by those authors. And I was a little annoyed with them for dragging their feet until they could finally accept that their experience was real. And to me, it was obvious. How often have I resisted what I knew to be true, though? A huge one comes to mind, I've mentioned before. When I started reading A Course in Miracles, I did have a knowing that it was truth and it was important for me, and I did stick with it, eventually completing it 4.5 times without the resistance. But at first, I resisted by thinking that the male-dominated language was so irritating and thinking it was just ponderous and indirect and should just speak English, and thinking that the initial lessons were ridiculous and made no sense, and thinking angry and harmful thoughts. Right now, I'm thinking that it would be worth my while to take Paul's guide's teaching to heart and be aware of barriers I put up to delay and sidetrack myself from what I know in my heart and soul to be truth, and to trust my knowing, which will be a great shortcut to shine that divine.